Hi, Terry here. Hi, Susan.
Hey.
Hello, Parker. And Susan.
Hi. How's the baby, Parker? Getting any sleep?
She's good.
Good.
It's our toddler keeping us up more than
Seriously.
more than our baby.
That's right. That's right. I loved that picture.
Ken, you could begin.
We'll probably give it another minute before we start.
Can you hear me, Ken?
Ken.
Understand me? Good.
Good.
You're silent, but I'm with you. I'll mute myself till you need me.
Okay. You're my wrap-up speaker, Jose. Okay, let me first of all start by welcoming everyone that were able to join us tonight. And I particularly want to thank our special guests and our candidates who are doing a million Zoom meetings these days and are busy campaigning. And we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. And I'm very excited because we have such great candidates. And I think you're going to be excited when you hear some of these wonderful candidates that we have, particularly some of the newer ones and younger ones that maybe you haven't had a chance to hear before. Secondly, I want to thank all of you that were sponsors of the event and that have made the financial contributions that are going to make it possible for us to help get all of these great people elected, as well as many of the others around the state. The Sierra Club this year has focused on 30 priority races. And these are, we think, the 30 of the closest races and most competitive races in the state that'll make the difference in continuing great leadership from our governor, attorney general, as well as recapturing a number of council and state races that we haven't had with good environmentalists in the past. So we're looking forward to changing that this year. And then we're targeting a number of the most competitive House and state Senate races. We think we've got the first time opportunity in over a decade to take back the North Carolina House and Senate with an environmental majority so we can move forward. And instead of playing defense, we can play offense again and start rolling back some of those bad laws, restoring some of the 30% funding cut that our DEQ department has suffered, and doing all the things we need to do to move this state forward and be back in the leadership of being the environmental leader in the Southeast. I'm excited to introduce our first speaker tonight. Michael Regan is Secretary of the North Carolina Department for Environmental Quality, and he oversees the state agency whose mission is to protect North Carolina's environment and natural resources. Before joining the Cooper administration, he led the Environmental Defense Fund's efforts to reduce the impacts of climate change and air quality pollution. Prior to that, he worked with the Environmental Protection Agency's air quality and energy programs for both the Clinton and Bush administrations. So we're excited to have Secretary Regan, and I could go on for all of his time just giving the introduction of all he's accomplished. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Regan. Thank you for joining us, and this floor is yours.
Hey, well, thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. It's a real pleasure to join you virtually, even if we can't be there together, breathing the crisp mountain air. But Ken, I really appreciate that kind introduction. You know, it's been a pleasure working with you and the Sierra Club on some of the state's toughest issues these past few years, standing arm in arm and protecting the North Carolina that we all love. I know we're all going to continue to keep our sleeves rolled up, continuing the good fight, and as Congressman John Lewis said, getting into some good trouble. And of course, you know, I'm really excited to hear from our strong champions in the North Carolina General Assembly who have helped Governor Cooper and myself protect North Carolina's environment and its 10 million citizens. Representatives Ray Russell, Brian Turner, Susan Fisher, John Ager, Joe Sam Queen. As a matter of fact, with that esteemed group of people, the only thing I can think of that might divide us is the question of who has the best barbecue. But I won't answer that tonight because I think I'm outnumbered. But what I will do is I'll thank the voters of Western North Carolina for sending some of the best environmental voices to the General Assembly. I'm thankful for the partnership, and I'm thankful for the hard work that we've done together over the past few years. I'm also especially excited tonight and look forward to hearing from Ronnie Chatterjee, Jenna Wadsworth, Julie Mayfield, and some of the others who are stepping up to the call of public service. You know, over the past 3.5 years since Governor Cooper appointed me as the 17th Secretary for the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, I've had the pleasure of traveling to over 90 of our 100 counties. And I must say, my trips to Western North Carolina have been some of the most fulfilling, whether guest lecturing at Appalachian State, teaching elementary students at Camp Muddy Sneakers, trout fishing and canoeing in some of the best Western waters, horseback riding, or having a great, nice, cold beer in some of our world-class breweries. I'm blown away by Western North Carolina's excellent connections to our state's environment, economy, and educational system. But you know, recently we've had some threats to some of North Carolina's gems all across the state, from Murphy to Manteo and everywhere in between, from COVID-19 and social unrest to a month that actually brought North Carolina a hurricane, a tornado, and an earthquake. We're constantly reminded that life is dynamic. But when it counts, North Carolinians show up because we are resilient people. And by joining this call tonight, many folks are demonstrating the kind of resiliency that we need to keep North Carolina on track. And it just didn't start tonight. Because of the generous support of many people in 2018, we elected a new round of leaders that have helped bring some much needed change to Raleigh. And for selfish reasons, I'd like to say help bring some much needed resources to my department when we saw budget cuts for the past decade, as Ken mentioned, in some areas up to 40%. We would not have covered the ground that we've covered recently without some of the new voices, and I thank you for that. In 2016, when I attended my first real campaign event, and I paid to hear then candidate Roy Cooper speak, not only did Governor Cooper speak to me, but his message spoke to my values and what our state needs to reach its full potential. We are living in unprecedented times, and Governor Cooper is providing the leadership that our state, quite frankly, our nation needs right now. The pandemic has really brought home the need to expand Medicaid and provide health insurance for more than 600,000 hardworking North Carolinians that lack coverage. 23,000 of them are our veterans. It's only exacerbated the inequities that are plaguing our healthcare systems, our education systems, and further setting back our neighbors and those who have the least amongst us. But it's also showing us that we made a really good decision in electing Governor Roy Cooper. His leadership has been exactly what this state needs. Before COVID hit, his CEO mission for the state was and still is a North Carolina where people are better educated, where they're healthier, where they have more money in their pockets, and they can live a more abundant and purposeful life. And in order to do that, Governor Cooper has made education a priority again by fighting for teachers to be paid what they deserve. He's bringing jobs and industry back to many of our rural communities, and he's advocating for the expansion of broadband and building back a resilient infrastructure. And of course, Governor Cooper is not only fighting, but he is succeeding in protecting our environment, our natural resources, our economy, and public health. And guess what? My department is happy to help him do that. You know, the mission at DEQ is providing science-based environmental stewardship for the health and prosperity of all North Carolinians, every single North Carolinian. To help us do that in a fair and equitable manner, I established the state's first ever Environmental Justice and Equity Advisory Board, blending the pursuit of environmental protection and social justice together, a true reflection of the diversity of North Carolina, lifting up the voices of the underserved to ensure that there is climate justice, clean air, and clean water for everyone. We're fighting really hard to protect our water quality, which has been a priority for this administration from day one. You know, when the chemical company Chemours, a spinoff from DuPont, was found dumping pollution into the Cape Fear River, our department sent them a very motivating message: clean up your act or go somewhere else. And that motivation was more than just words. We completely suspended their ability to discharge any water into our sacred rivers. We ordered them to pay a $12 million fine, the largest penalty ever levied and collected by my department in North Carolina history. We've also made them clean up their air pollution 99%, clean up the groundwater contamination by 99%, and provide all of the impacted families with access to public water or filtration systems to ensure that they have safe drinking water, a very basic human right. All in all, Chemours will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to clean up their mess, and they've chosen to do so because they want to stay in North Carolina. So the message is clear: whether it's the Cape Fear River, the French Broad, New River, or Yadkin, if you pollute our waters, we will come after you. And we can't wait for Trump's EPA to do so. We're having to do it ourselves. And we need even more voices in Raleigh and Washington, D.C. to help us achieve the goals that we set out. In January, we also nudged another powerful company to clean up their act. We ordered Duke Energy to excavate 80 million tons of coal ash to line landfills. To date, the largest coal ash cleanup in this nation's history. We made the decision because there was only one thing to do, and that was the right thing: ensure that all of our communities have a protected environment and clean drinking water. North Carolina's communities dealt with and lived with coal ash pollution for far too long. The previous administration couldn't get the job done. We got the job done. Now communities can be certain that coal ash will be cleaned up beginning this year. We're holding Duke accountable, and we'll continue to hold them accountable. And with this limited budget that we had, we didn't stop there. Thanks to your support and partnership, we're also taking the lead on climate change. You know, when President Trump pulled the United States out of the Paris Accord agreements and called climate change a hoax, Roy Cooper didn't blink. Roy Cooper didn't blink because he knows climate change is very real, impacting our state in a big way, putting lives in danger, tearing up our infrastructure, and significantly setting back the least amongst us. Real impacts like the devastating landslides you've experienced, back-to-back hurricanes and tropical storms that have pounded our state. But Roy Cooper has a plan. Governor Cooper's plan to address climate change, it doesn't follow the Trump playbook. It actually unites government, academia, corporate industry, and nonprofits together to find long-lasting solutions that are in the best interest of all North Carolinians. Under Governor Cooper's leadership, North Carolina is committed to building North Carolina back stronger, smarter, and more resilient. We're going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 70% by 2030 from the power sector. We're going to achieve carbon neutrality in the power sector by 2050. We're going to put over 80,000 electric vehicles on North Carolina's highways by 2024. We're going to reduce state building energy consumption by 40% by 2024. And you know what that means? That means good jobs all across this state. Just think of the potential we have to give an economic and social boost to the state while protecting the environment and fighting climate change. But folks, we've got a lot more work to do, and we need a lot more voices along with us in Raleigh. Listen, this is very personal to me. I'm very proud to lead these efforts and a department of dedicated public servants for a governor who cares about our environment. I'm very proud to be part of the most diverse cabinet in North Carolina's history. Proud to work closely with strong voices like Representatives Fisher, Turner, Ager, Russell, and Queen, and proud to be on this call with a call full of North Carolina's finest who love this state just as much as I do. We need as many voices in Raleigh as we can to help us with this fight. And believe me, it is a fight, but a fight that we all can win. So let's keep working together, getting these great candidates the resources that they need so that we can continue to provide North Carolina with the leadership that we all need to bring this state to its full potential. We can't do it without you. I'm honored to be with this group tonight, and thank you for inviting me to talk with these real North Carolina champions. Ken, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Secretary Regan. We really appreciate having you tonight and the inspiring words you just gave us. With that, I want to move on to our next speaker. We're really fortunate to have Ronnie Chatterjee, who's running for North Carolina State Treasurer. And many of you may not have heard Ronnie before, but I think you're going to be really excited to see what this young man can do as treasurer of this great state. Ronnie is an economist and professor of business and public policy at Duke University. He has served on President Obama's Council of Economic Advisors as a senior economist, and certainly worked on both of his presidential campaigns. His most recent book is Can Business Save the Earth? And explains how business leaders and investors and policymakers can collaborate to build a more sustainable world. Ronnie, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Ken. And if I can get a thumbs up, everyone can hear me okay. I want to make sure my microphone's good. All right, that's awesome. Well, first, I want to thank Secretary Regan. That was awesome. I feel like the type of energy we have in the most diverse cabinet we've had in North Carolina history is amazing. And hearing from you and how enthusiastic, innovative, and accomplished you've already been, I'm just excited to have the opportunity to work with you. So thank you so much for being here and kicking everything off with such wonderful spirit. I wish we were in person so I could clap a little bit louder or slap you on the back, but this is the best we can do. I also want to thank Ken Brain, my old friend that I met during the primary, who kind of explained to me how all this stuff works, and the entire Sierra Club and all the elected officials on the Zoom call and the people who are soon going to be elected. And you know who I'm talking about there as well. I got a confession to make before I start. And the confession is not that I have 3 kids who are going to bang down this door in about 5 minutes if I don't get off a Zoom call. That's just par for the course. The confession is I'm a nerd, not a politician. So if you don't mind, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about my campaign and what we're doing across North Carolina. But I'd like to nerd out with people here at the Sierra Club about some of the issues that I'm passionate about. And I'll do it all, I promise, in less than 8 minutes so we can keep things moving on, all right? So when I started off this campaign, most people didn't know what to make of me. I mean, look, I'm not the typical, how do you say this? The political consultants in North Carolina don't look at me as the prototypical candidate. My last name has like 15 letters here on Zoom. I can't even count. I'm a professor at Duke, which it's great and all, but during basketball season, it makes it very, very uncomfortable. And I've never, ever run for public office before. I've been a policy wonk. I'm the man behind the man behind the woman, the man who's supporting and writing memos for people like Secretary Regan and others, trying to bring about a theory of change in the bowels of federal and state government. But that all changed for me in 2004 when I saw a man named Barack Obama give a speech at the Democratic National Convention. And like when Governor Cooper spoke to Secretary Regan, something about that speech inspired me to get involved. He said that a skinny kid with a funny name could do anything in America. And I gotta be honest, y'all, I thought he was talking about me. And so I decided to work on his campaign, decided to work in his administration when he won North Carolina, by the way, in 2008. At the Council of Economic Advisors, I started to look at the intersection between business and public policy in a whole new way. And I realized that running for office and getting involved at the state and local level was gonna be necessary to bring about change. Look at the work that Secretary Regan is doing here. Could he be doing any more valuable work across the country than working right here in North Carolina on these issues? I don't think so. But you all know that these state races and these state positions are often seen as less glamorous, less sexy. But I believe that the theory of change has to start in state and local government. And I also believe that environmentalists in particular, progressives, Democrats, we've often overlooked these fantastic candidates and elected officials at the state and local level. My first entry into politics was watching George W. Bush win Florida over Al Gore in 2000. The Secretary of State, an unheralded position, was manned by Katherine Harris, and they made a huge difference in this election. Why do Republicans have so many Secretary of States elected? Why do Republicans have so many Solicitor Generals? Why do they have so many state treasurers? It's because we haven't put committed environmentalists and other people who share our values in those positions. The state treasurer is one of those positions that we need someone who understands how the environment works and how to balance business and our environmental sustainability goals. State treasurer manages $100 billion as the sole trustee. We're managing that pension money for people like my folks who are public educators. And a lot of folks don't know how their money's being managed. When I talked to my parents before they ran, I said, do you know about the money and the pension and how they're investing it? Do you know anything about how they're investing in accordance with your values or thinking about these long-term risks? My parents looked at me and said, I just assumed someone was taking care of that. We have trust that our leaders are actually managing this money correctly and investing for the future. But right now, we have a politician in that job, not someone who actually understands economics, finance, and sustainability. And so I launched my Unlikely campaign in May 2019, ran against two great people in the primary, and on March 3rd, I was victorious with 410,000 votes across North Carolina. Now, on March 3rd, I was hugging people, shaking hands, kissing my babies at least, and shaking hands. I haven't shaken anybody's hand or kissed any baby besides my own for the last 8 months. And I don't think we're gonna go to many events. We're doing everything on Zoom. And many of you have joined me. We've done events with Cory Booker. We have one coming up with Beto O'Rourke. We've also done some pretty nerdy, wonky events that no political candidate really would associate themselves with unless they were a really big nerd. We did one last week on climate change. We had a panel, I know this is really bad for a Zoom then, a panel of 4 experts who spent about 30 minutes talking about climate change and pension funds. Why do I think this is important? Because the CFTC, the Commodities Future Trading Commission, released a groundbreaking report last week. It was groundbreaking not just because of what they said, but who said it. Trump administration appointed advisory council came out and said that climate change is a systemic risk to our financial system. And they called out public pension funds just like ours and asked us to consider, how does your investment strategy change as we transition to a low carbon future? Well, today, Treasurer Dale Folwell doesn't have an answer for that question. He doesn't think that stuff matters. And this isn't a political debate. This is about protecting my folks' money. Because I don't want my parents or any other public employee or educator to have their money invested in companies that are going to have stranded assets in 5 years, are going to get fined and penalized because they're flouting the environmental rules and regulations. If we're not prepared for a low carbon future, we're not with the smart money. We're not with the religious institutions and the military, armed forces investments and all the other endowments that are actually investing around what the future is going to look like. That's going to change when I'm treasurer of North Carolina, and it's going to change fast. One is because I have expertise on these issues, and I believe that climate change is a huge threat to the sustainability of our pension fund. And 2 is, as the sole trustee in the state treasurer's office, we can make change happen quickly. Now, I know folks in the environmental policy community haven't always focused on state treasurers, but I think my theory of change is that one of the most important positions we can elect in the Council of State for environmental issues is the state treasurer. And I'm going to make sure when I get to that job that I'm going to hire an analyst to look at ESG factors, environmental, social, and governance. I'm going to bring together a panel on decarbonization to figure out and advise me how we can deal for a low carbon future. I also want to ask the local government commission that supervises all government finances in North Carolina to ask what the impact of climate change will be on property values and property tax revenue. These are the things we ought to have been doing years ago in the treasurer's office, but we haven't been doing it. Now, this election is going to be really close. When I get together with my political team, they show me lots of data, but here's the bottom line. It's tied. And the ability for me to communicate to voters in Asheville, in Greensboro, in Wilmington, in Greenville, as well as Charlotte and Raleigh-Durham is going to determine whether we win this race. A lot of you saw my ad during the primary. It was me and my kids making fun of me being a nerd. We'll probably do something similar this time. It doesn't need to be a lot of negativity. It just needs to show people who I am and what I'm going to do. Your support on events like this and your support for me directly can help me achieve those goals. And I will need your help, not just over the next 48 days, but also when I'm elected treasurer, because I want to know what kinds of advice I need to be getting, what kinds of precautions we need to be taking. And I want North Carolina to lead on these issues, There's a tremendous opportunity as one of the only 4 states that has a sole trustee model to take that CFTC report, the Commodities Future Trading Commission report, and implement those recommendations in North Carolina. So if you're with me, I will need your help with that. I'll direct you to my website, ronniechatterjee.com. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to winning with all the candidates on this call and serving with Secretary Regan and the other great folks as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roddy. Gosh, you guys can see why I'm so excited about this guy being our candidate for state treasurer and why it's so important we get him elected. But he's not the only really exciting young candidate we've got running this year. We've got Jenna Wadsworth, who's a candidate for North Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture. Jenna was born in Raleigh, but grew up on her grandfather's farm on a dirt road in Johnston County. In December of 2011, she graduated magna cum laude from NC State University with a major in political science and a minor in English. And then at the age of 21, she made history by being the youngest elected woman in North Carolina history when she was elected to the Wake County Soil and Water Conservation District Board. She's been re-elected and now serves as vice chair. We want to make history again this fall by having Jenna become the first LGBTQ constitutional officer in the state of North Carolina. Jenna, up to you. Go for it.
Hey y'all, my name is Jenna Wadsworth and I'm your Democratic nominee for North Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture. And I want to start by thanking the Sierra Club. Actually, before all the attendees jumped on, we were joking about how many Sierra Club events I have done in the last couple weeks alone. I am so grateful for Ken and Judy, and I think I saw Richard jump on too. Y'all have just been incredibly supportive. I really credit you with the strength of our strong showing in the primary, especially in Western North Carolina. So thank y'all for supporting me and for believing in me and knowing that we can really put a climate champion in the commissioner's office this year. Now, again, my name is Jenna Wadsworth, and I grew up on a hog, cow, chicken, corn, cotton, tobacco, and soybean farm on a dirt road in Johnston County in eastern North Carolina. Most of my earliest memories are on the farm, whether it's playing hide and go seek in the grain silos or shelling snap peas into one of those big old metal wash basins with my granny on the back porch. But I hope y'all won't hold the Eastern North Carolina piece against me. I feel like Western North Carolina's adopted daughter after the primary cycle. I spent a lot of time up there because I know that a lot of statewide candidates often don't prioritize Western North Carolina, or you forget about Western North Carolina. And the Blue Ridge Mountains are somewhere where you can find some of the most varied and beautiful landscapes and views in the world, but they're also somewhere where you can find some of the most varied and beautiful farms and agricultural territory and a burgeoning agribusiness area in the state. And so, you know, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, there were farmers that were really struggling because of a lack of leadership in this department. And most of them would tell you, whether they were Republicans, Democrats, Independents, these farmers in Western North Carolina called me up or I reached out to them. And over again, I heard, hey, Commissioner Troxler only comes here to open the Mountain State Fair. And that's about the only time of year that we see him. And Western North Carolina deserves better. Your farmers were hurting before the COVID-19 pandemic, and now recent reports show that about 80% of farmers in the Southern Appalachian region are struggling and experiencing major financial losses since the start of COVID. And about 2/3 of those farmers said that they will have to consider pursuing bankruptcy if this pandemic continues and there's still no guidance or leadership from the top. That is heartbreaking. What's more is, as a result of the current commissioner's inaction on climate change, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Ken will tell you I can really go off on this topic. But as a result of his inaction on supporting our small farmers, prioritizing their needs, prioritizing the needs of Western North Carolinians, and really understanding the culture that these farmers are living with, it's expected that temperatures will rise between 2 and 5 degrees in North Carolina by 2050 if we continue not to act on climate change. that will be absolutely detrimental to farmers in Western North Carolina that depend upon those cooler temps in order to grow everything from ginseng to hops to those who are involved in grapes and viniculture. And that will be absolutely devastating for the agricultural industry in this state as a whole, but especially for your region. And so you need leadership. It is past time for real leadership that's actually effective and cares about the people who call this part of the state home. I'm also really tickled not only to be endorsed by the North Carolina Sierra Club, the League of Conservation Voters, as of today, Sunrise, North Carolina, but so many of the elected officials and candidates who are on this call today and whom I admire, and I know they themselves are climate champions. Now, for those of you who don't know about me or who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, not only did I grow up on a family farm, but I still help manage farm operations to this day with my father. This past season, I actually planted over 45 rows, 50 linear feet each, different fruits and vegetables, about 30 different varieties of crops. And so agriculture is in my blood. It's a part of who I am. It's what makes running this race deeply personal, because I know a number of the other young people cannot consider agriculture as a viable career opportunity, because really this industry has been left in the past. And I am running to be able to move it into the future. And I'm running against a man named Steve Troxler, who has been serving in this office for over 15 years. And in that time, I think it's no secret that he's grown complacent. And he's been bought and paid for by special interests and international corporations like Smithfield Foods. Y'all know about those lawsuits down east. Monsanto, big chemical, big oil and gas, the same ones that want to run pipelines through indigenous lands and through the lands of small farmers who can't afford to be tied up in legal battles in court. And so, you know, all of these industries, all of these corporations, these out-of-state and out-of-international corporations and organizations that support him, denigrate our environment and our natural resources and largely suffer none of the consequences for doing so. What's more is they are the voices that are setting the priorities at your North Carolina Department of Agriculture. I know that you deserve better. It is time to put a fighter in this office who wants to prioritize you. And that is why I am actually, to this day, the only statewide candidate of either party who has signed a pledge not to take any money from fossil fuel executives or their PACs, and not to support any new pipeline projects. I also made a pledge early on not to take any corporate PAC money, because I believe in living my values. And I want you to know that I want to serve each and every single one of you and not big special interests. My opponent does not believe that climate change is real. I feel like we need to let that sink in for a second. And after hearing President Trump's remarks this week, as he was standing amongst the blazes in the on the West Coast, and basically saying that climate change was not indeed real, it is very troubling to continue to hear that rhetoric coming from folks who are in positions of power in this country. I don't know if any of y'all logged into Facebook this morning and you saw that there was an information center about climate change with actual reputable links, scientific links for you to be able to pursue. But there is a war on science in this country. And this election is our opportunity to fight back. We're not going to get a second chance. And, you know, I think that everyone on this call understands just how important it is to be engaged and active in this fight. So farming is one of the hardest jobs there is. You work very long hours, toiling under the hot sun or in cold breezes. You have a lot of overhead and a very low profit margin. Everyone that you know is somehow related to your farm, whether it's the seed store owner or it's your consumers or it's your meat processor. And by the way, we have to support small meat processors and making sure that they have the funding to succeed. So that way we can fight back against consolidation in this industry, which is largely crippling the small farmers' ability to be successful. But we have to stand up for our small farmers and give them the opportunity to succeed. And that's not going to happen under a commissioner who is derelict in his duty to support our farmers because of his denial of climate change. And so North Carolinians deserve better. You can have better under my tenure. Right now, we've got somebody who hails himself as a hero for getting Democrats and Republicans in the legislature to agree to cut a relief check every single time there's a major storm event. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I think we have to have a better solution to dealing with natural disasters than just writing a check. That's why I want to create a division within the North Carolina Department of Agriculture that works to specifically address climate change and building resiliency into our farm and community planning that connects the dots between apple orchard owners who right now are having a very hard time getting crop insurance because blooming seasons are unpredictable, our coastal fisher people who don't know what their next haul is going to be like depending upon ocean currents from storm events, and our breweries, our agribusinesses, our renewables energy sector. And by the way, solar and renewable opportunities are absolutely critical for our farmers who may not have a next generation who's ready to take over yet. And so solar leases are a way for them to keep their land in agriculture while they're making that decision and seeing what's happening in the industry. And so there's so many things that we can do that aren't being done. And leadership starts at the top. So until we have a commissioner who is committed to, from day one, unapologetically addressing the climate crisis head on, nothing's ever gonna change. And this office is one which is often overlooked and neglected. We just assume that this position has nothing to do with our daily lives. But the reality is, if you eat, you should care about our farmers. If you have to breathe clean air, you should care about this office. If you want to know that there's clean drinking water, you should care about what the commissioner's office is doing and who is running our state's biggest and most economically important industry that brings in over $92.7 billion per year to this state and employs over 770,000 people. It is time to put someone in the most important industry, leading the most important industry in our state, who is able to give a nod to our past, to learn from our agricultural heritage, but who has a vision to move us forward into a more sustainable, just, and equitable future that works for every single person who calls North Carolina home instead of just a select few, and the actual ability to implement that vision, and doing so with an inclusive and a transparent purpose. And that's who I am. That's why I'm so grateful to be endorsed by the Sierra Club and to have your help in this fight as we move forward. And I cannot wait to see what we can do together. So thank you for being here, and thank you to all the attendees for supporting not just the candidates on this call, but the Sierra Club and all the great work that they're doing.
Thank you, Jenna. I think, folks, you can see why I'm so excited about the new candidates and these young candidates we have running statewide, the future of our party in this state. So exciting times. People that really understand what the challenges are and how important climate change is. Now it's time to kind of turn our attention to our candidates here in the western part of the state. And we're going to start with General Assembly here locally. And first of all, I got some good news and bad news. The bad news is that we're losing probably one of the most real champions for climate change and protecting our environment in the North Carolina Senate with Terry Van Dyne, who is not running for re-election this year. So that's the bad news, and will be big shoes to fill. But the good news is, boy, do we have the right candidate who can step right in and follow her and be another really strong advocate for the environment and be really effective and represent us well here in Buncombe County. And that's Julie Mayfield. Julie is currently co-director of Mountain True, a regional environmental organization protecting our mountains and streams, and also a member of the Asheville City Council, who has a long record of achievements and leadership on environmental issues. Julie, let me turn it over to you and let you say a couple of words.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I will keep this super brief because there are a lot of us who are going to want to say something. So what I will say is I am excited about the opportunity to serve in the North Carolina legislature and take all of the issues that I care about, both in my job as Mountain True and the things that I care about and have worked on city council up to the state level and continuing to work on those things. The environment obviously is one of my top issues, one of my top priorities, particularly energy and climate change. I think we absolutely have to get the legislature in that game, and I look forward to being a part of that. I also just really look forward to being on the same team officially with Secretary Regan, with whom I already work closely on a number of things, but really look forward to being in a different role with him and being in a position to get him more of the resources that he needs to protect our environment. And then also, Ronnie's right. I really don't think about the state treasurer's office, but it sounds like he has a really great plan for bringing the values and actions of that office in line with the things that we care about here at the Sierra Club. And then just so excited to hear Jenna talk about what she wants to do. At Mountain True, I know directly that a lot of environmental impacts come from agriculture, and we just need to take a different approach, and having someone like Jenna leading that department at the state level, I think will allow us to finally make some progress on those issues. So I just, again, want to say thank you to those folks for running, Ronnie and Jenna and Michael for serving in your position through very difficult times. And thanks also to the Sierra Club for your endorsement. I'm proud of that endorsement and look forward to working with your folks in Raleigh when the time comes. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. Excited to have you as our next state senator from Buncombe County. You know, I've long told people around the state that we've got the greenest delegation in the General Assembly of any county in the state. There's some good people up there, but top to bottom, boy, we have a group of real wonderful elected officials from Buncombe County representing us in Raleigh. And the first one I want to introduce is Susan Fisher. Susan has represented District Buncombe County in North Carolina House for the last 16 years and is running for re-election for District 114. Susan, introduce you and tell us what District 114 covers now. It's changed since the last time we voted.
That's right. I think Brian Turner and I, Representative Turner and I could probably tag team that question. We had an interesting time in the last biennium looking at the lines of all three of the districts in Buncombe. And we decided at the very outset that we would not have our opinions, be in the mix in terms of how those lines would be redrawn. What we did is we went up to staff, nonpartisan staff in the General Assembly, and we said, fix this so that Brian and I were not double bunked, which is how we turned out to be early on. And they fixed it. And they fixed it in really a good way, as I see it. Of course, I miss parts of my district that I had before, like Montford now is in Brian Turner's district, but I picked up Weaverville. Sorry, John Ager. But I also have Lester and Sandy Mush, which is a really nice thing because that's what my district used to look like. And I think that it made all of our districts way more balanced and diverse for each of us, and certainly winnable. And I think that we are all looking forward to going back to the General Assembly. And I just have to say, we have a deep bench in Buncombe and in Western North Carolina for that matter. We've got good people that just keep stepping up to serve at the state level. I am so excited about being, my seatmate is Pricey Harrison. As everybody knows, she's kind of like the goddess of environment. And I love having her as a seatmate. It's like my conscience, she's sitting on my shoulder. But now I'll be flanked. I'm gonna have Julie in the Senate, Pricey as a seatmate. How can I go wrong when it comes to environmental issues? The thing that has been so frustrating for almost a decade is that no matter what we tried, many of the things that we wanted to see happen just stalled, got sent to rules, couldn't get a hearing in the Senate, whatever the case may be. But that is getting ready to change, and it's going to change in a really good way. One thing I look forward to is working with Secretary Regan about just any number of environmental issues. I was so pleased that another representative that we're going to miss, Chuck McGrady, was able to work with the governor and the secretary on the Volkswagen settlement to make sure that we get a start, at least, on doing things like electric school buses and making a cleaner, greener North Carolina. COVID has kind of put a monkey wrench into things right now. We are, not as flush in terms of cash. But let me tell you, the people that you send to Raleigh this time are going to have the best interests of North Carolinians at heart. We're going to do the best we can with what we have, and we're going to clean up the mess. Let me tell you, the book that I plan to take with me is the book that was written by the former dean of the chapel of the law school, Chapel Hill, called Indecent Assembly. I think if anybody hasn't read that book, take a look at it, because it kind of gives our playbook for what we need to fix when we get back to Raleigh in January. I really love serving the General Assembly, even in this last kind of drag of 10 years. There's the book, John Ager held it up. And look, that's awesome. And so we all have the playbook. I cannot wait to go back, but this time go back in leadership. There are only a handful of us, myself included, who have ever chaired a committee on our side of the aisle. And in this time of taking it back, we're all going to be in some really prime spots to make good on all the promises that we have wanted to see fulfilled over this last period of time, but have just stopped dead. So I am, again, so proud to be endorsed by the Sierra Club. I'm looking at all these, that's the other thing I like about Zoom meetings, is that I don't have to be like John Ager's late father-in-law, who could remember everybody's name, no matter how long it had been between visits. I can just look on the list and see that Molly Diggins is here. And Molly, retired? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any such thing as retired for Molly Diggins. Drew Ball was on from Environment North Carolina. I mean, we have got the cream of the crop in North Carolina when it comes to environmental issues. And I'm going to be so happy to see us all, from the local level all the way to the top, be involved in really doing the work that Sierra Club has put before us. It's all the things that we care about as North Carolinians. So thank you, Sierra Club. And thanks to all of you all who are running. I am grateful. It's going to be a great time when we get back in the majority come January. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Susan. John Ager is up next, and John has been representing District 115 in Buncombe County for, I think, a couple of terms here, and we worked really hard to get him elected, and hopefully his district's a little safer than it was before, but he can't take it for granted. But, John is a state representative or U.S. State House member, but he's really best known for managing Nut Gap Farm. That's what most people look at John for and give him credit for. And the fact he's a state House member is just kind of, okay, that's kind of nice, but keep doing this great thing, providing that great food that you do. John, you're up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ken, thank you so much for putting this on. And I owe a huge debt to the Sierra Club for getting me elected by less than 500 votes in 2014. I have to admit, I miss the snacks and beer at our usual meeting. And the camaraderie. But we're really here because we're really beginning to face up to something really serious, and everyone else is talking about it, and it's right in our face, and it's climate change. I've been saying since the beginning of my running for office that the two great existential problems we face are climate change and income inequality. And as Secretary Reagan pointed out, they're linked. And I was really pleased to hear that they're looking at ways to mitigate some of the problems, because climate change is not going to hit everyone equally. I really want to point out some heroes. The Sierra Club's been a great hero, along with Julie. We don't have any more coal trains coming to Nashville, thanks to them. Quite a big change. We've got fires in California. I've got a son out there in California. He said it's breathing the air is like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And we've got a hurricane this very minute hitting the Gulf, the second hurricane in 2 weeks. And there's more storms out there. I mean, it's in our face, and we have got to take it on with all we've got. And the state of North Carolina needs to take it on. We've lost about 10 years in dealing with it, and the federal government's certainly lost 4 years, gone backwards in dealing with climate change. There's a terrific New York Times article today about climate refugees, and they're trying to piece together where people are going to go. One of the places they've been coming since Katrina is Western North Carolina. And we are also a special region because as the climate changes, we are going to be the sort of arc where our biodiversity can survive. The plants can move up to higher elevations and survive. And we have a double responsibility to protect our landscapes so that can occur. Out in California, after last year, the insurance companies began looking at their risk factors and began to send letters to homeowners saying that we can't insure you anymore. The state of California stepped in and said, no, you can't drop anybody. This fire season is something like 2,000 times worse. Watch the insurance companies. They're going to be talking about climate change, and they're going to be going out of business. Actually, it's going to be one of the sort of birds down in the mines that are telling us we've got to do something. There's another article going around about the two huge Antarctic glaciers that are starting to break up, and they will be going into the ocean and creating ocean rise. It's going to take a lot of socialism to save Miami and New York and San Francisco and Wilmington, North Carolina from climate change. It is an existential problem. The more we delay, the more it's going to cost. My particular interest is agriculture. When you go down to see those hog farm lagoons, you see the methane just bubbling out, going right into the atmosphere. We have got to reorganize agriculture, as Jenna mentioned, to work on getting the carbon that's in the air back in the ground where it can make our soils more productive. We've got to take Soil and Water, our enormous statewide organization, to begin preparing farms and measuring farms for their ability to capture carbon. And of course, we've got to promote solar and wind. North Carolina is blessed, especially offshore. We are blessed with one of the best wind resources of any state in the union, and we have not been able to begin to make use of that resource. Moreover, those wind turbines are huge, and those blades are huge. We can create an industry building those things down on the coast, a very profitable and a high jobs industry if we would commit ourselves to wind energy in North Carolina. So that's probably enough for me. I am getting more and more worried about our lack of ability to face up to climate change. And I know everyone on this call or on this Zoom agrees with me. And once again, I thank the Sierra Club wholeheartedly for their support over the years. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Excited to have you representing us up there. Next is Brian Turner. Brian's another three-term incumbent running for re-election District 116 in Buncombe County. And he not only has won three elections, but he's probably been the Democrat that represented the most Republican-leaning district in the state until this election. And so Brian was able to do it because he was a great candidate. He worked hard, and we think we as Sierra Club helped a little bit. We had people, I think, at every polling site in his district handing out cards to try to get him elected. Brian, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ken. And yes, I owe in large part my win in 2014 to the Sierra Club. There's nothing more comforting than when you're someplace like Pole Creek Baptist Church and you see somebody from Sierra Club and they're handing out those little sheets, those little flyers with your name on, those slate cards. So it's always a very comforting feeling to know you're not alone in some of those spots. But I also want to thank Secretary Regan for all the great work that he has done. And I know that one of the first things he did when he came into his position into office is he helped us navigate the brownfield sites at the Anchor ball fields and helped us turn what was once an industrial landfill into a great facility that has been able to, bring a lot of folks to that community, a lot of economic development, and a lot of joy to families. Of course, sometimes there is no joy in Mudville for the other team, but that just happens. But it's great to be on here. And as Susan said, we have new districts, and while I'm sad to lose some of the great areas like Sandy Mush and Lester, and Terry Wells has been incredibly helpful to me in my campaigns in the past, and really, I think I carried Sandy Mush in the last election. I think I may have been the first Democrat to do that in probably a couple of decades, and that's in large part to Terry's work. So I'm looking forward to her winning so that we can work together from the county to the state level. But, it's interesting when we're talking about, climate change and these things. One of the questionnaires, we get tons of questionnaires to fill out as candidates. And some of them, it's sort of like, I sometimes really wonder how many people in this organization are there and who writes these questions. But one of the questions, I think it may be the Mountain Express one, was, now that you have a new district, what are you going to do differently? Or what are the different things that you're going to focus on? And we, because you now have a more urban district than you did before. And so many of the issues that we're facing at the state level, it transcends sort of the zip codes. And so when you start to look at things like food insecurity, when you start to look at things like broadband access, and in particular, when you look at climate change, there really isn't any difference. Flooding along the French Broad River affects people in downtown Asheville, just like it affects people down in downtown Marshall. And so we've got to remember that so many of these issues that we're dealing with, in particular as it affects climate change, really don't care where you live. And so, when I go down to Raleigh, hopefully again next year, I'm really not going to change a whole lot about what I've been doing or how I've been approaching things, because the issues are still the same. But I'm really grateful to be able to have some folks to work with, and it's great to have folks sort of across the political spectrum in terms of jurisdictions. So it's great to be able to have some fantastic city council members like Julie to be able to work with. The county commission has always been tremendous. I'm hoping to hopefully see Parker there, see some good representation from out in the Hominies, some good representation from out in the Hominies. They've had some representation. I'm looking for some good representation from out in the Hominies with Parker. But I'm just really grateful for all the work that Sierra Club has done and will do in the future to help us stay in office and to help bring us new friends like Josh and keep people like Ray Russell. And then lastly, I just want to say, I want to thank Joe Sam Queen. Because Joe Sam, I think, and Joe Sam, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you sent us all copies of Indecent Assembly. And so my copy of the book came from Joe Sam. So I don't know if he's part of some sort of secret pass it along book club, but I really appreciate that, and it's good reading. So thank you for that. And Ken, thanks again for hosting this for us tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brian, as always. Well, Brian, not only when we elected Brian in 2014, we not only got a great environmentalist and a great state representative, a person representing us here from Buncombe County, but he did us another favor. He retired one of the most anti-environment, anti-city of Asheville legislators probably in the history of Buncombe County, with Tim Moffitt. And Tim was beaten so badly, he moved out of the county. So that's the good news. The bad news is He's now living down in Henderson County, and there's an open seat down there that's for State House District 117, and Tim Moffitt is a Republican candidate running there. So he's trying to make a comeback. But the good news is we've got a good candidate down in Henderson County who's working his tail off to try to make sure that doesn't happen. So I want to introduce Josh Remillard, and Josh is a retired Army person, three terms of active duty, 2 of those in Iraq, and he now works in quality control for a nationally recognized pioneer of herbal supplements based in Brevard. Josh, you're up.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Yes. Hey, everybody. My name is Josh Remillard, and I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and I'm the Democratic nominee for the North Carolina House of Representatives for District 117, ready to take on Moffitt. A little bit about me. I served in the Army for 8 years, and like Ken said, I was an infantryman, and I did 2 combat tours in Iraq. When I finished up my tour of service, I wanted to move back to North Carolina with my family. I wanted to continue serving my community though, and I'd been involved in several nonprofits to do just that. As soon as I got out of the Army, I volunteered with Team Rubicon. It's a veteran-led and organized group that deploys veterans all over the U.S. to help with natural disasters. I had the fortune of going down and deploying to Florida after Hurricane Michael and helping out the people down there that really needed some help. I also got a chance to volunteer with Mountain True. I helped to clean up Mud Creek and stake the bakes along Mud Creek. And that was definitely a privilege to do that. I loved breaking into the ice in February. That was a lot of fun. But what really drove me to run last year was seeing my opponent, Tim Moffitt, throw his hat in the ring. And I think it was after doing a little bit of research into his leadership, if you can call it that, it really angered me because, I lost a lot of battle buddies in Iraq in combat because all of us believed in serving something larger than ourselves. We believed in, protecting our country, protecting our friends, our families, and our communities. And I found Moffitt's political leadership to be essentially appalling. To me, it was a spit in the face of all the sacrifices that my battle buddies and I made in service to our country. And the only thing that I perceive of Moffitt is that he serves himself. After Brian beat him and District 116 kicked him out of office for working against his constituents in 2014, he jumped ship and headed over to Henderson County to run for the open seat from McGrady. And I just, that to me, just, it smacked of just repulsiveness and disrespect. And that's not to me what a politician should be. So I vowed at that point in time to make him pay for every single step that he took in Henderson County. And, with Brian Turner's help and Terry Van Dyne's help, I managed to do something out in Henderson County, which hasn't been done in over a decade by a Democratic candidate. We, for the first time ever, we actually outraised the Republican opponent, Tim Moffitt, and we did it so 4-1. So we've made it out here to be a competitive race and to definitely show Moffitt and all of his cronies that we're here to stay and you're going to pay for everything you do out here. So, the big thing is, my thinking is unless we elect representatives and continue to re-elect representatives who are willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with Sierra Club and fight the good fight every single day on the front lines, protecting us from irresponsible environmental policies, greedy opportunists like Moffitt are going to continue to sell out Western North Carolina, undermining all the progress that we've made. And, I would say that you can ensure that we're finally able to play offense, like was said earlier, but only if you donate, if you volunteer, and most importantly, if you vote. I like to tell people I'm a hard-headed infantryman at heart, and so I'll continue to do the only thing that I know how to do, and that's knuckle down and charge up the gut for until my objective in November 3rd. So I just want to say, I'm honored to be endorsed by Sierra Club, and it's an honor to be here tonight, guys. And I want to thank everyone so much.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. And we're rooting for you down there. Absolutely. You know, we see gridlock in Washington, D.C. on climate issues. We see the North Carolina legislature blocking all the attempts from a legislative standpoint to accomplish anything. But the good news here locally in Buncombe County, we've got a county commission and city council that haven't waited to take action. And so I want to turn it over to Brownie Newman, who's running for chair, a re-election as chair of the Buncombe County Commission. And Brownie is founder of Headwaters Solar. And let him tell us a little bit about some of the accomplishments that the Buncombe County Commission has accomplished. Brownie, you're up.
All right. Thank you, Ken. It's great to see all of you here tonight. As some folks have said earlier, I'm sorry that we're not having the chance to meet in person for the event tonight. This is one of the events I really look forward to. It's a lot of fun, and it's great to see so many friends and other people in the environmental movement get together to talk about politics and the importance of elections and getting great environmental candidates elected across the board. So, thanks for organizing the event virtually tonight. It's great to see all of you. You know, I guess I want to start off by just, you know, whenever I'm in these kind of events with members of our state legislature, I just want to, it reminds me for all of the hard work that folks in local government, city council, county commission put into what we do. I just really want to thank all of you who serve in state government. Jasmine and I just got out of a county commission meeting about an hour ago, and it lasted about an hour, and we voted on some great stuff. We approved over $10 million in funding for solar projects on public schools and county buildings, and now we're both back at home and able to do this event. And I know that folks who go serve us in Raleigh really sacrifice a lot to do that. So thank all of you who are from the mountain region who travel to our state capital to do great work for us. You know, it has been, I've really felt fortunate over the last couple of years to be serving in local government in Buncombe County. We obviously have a really progressive community here who wants to see leadership on environmental protection and climate protection. And thanks to the work of the Sierra Club, we've got a county commission that's really wanted to be a leader in that. Buncombe County was one of the communities that voted to adopt a 100% renewable commitment. And that definitely would not have happened without the Sierra Club's work. I want to thank Jasmine for all of her leadership on that issue. As folks might remember, the first time that we brought that 100% renewable energy policy to the county commission, we actually lost that vote on a 5-2 vote, and Jasmine and I were the only two county commissioners who voted for it. But thanks to the Sierra Club and you know, particularly Judy Maddox and all of the students in Buncombe County who basically said, you know, we're not gonna walk away from this. We're gonna keep coming back. We have to have this commitment, especially from a place like Buncombe County. You know, this is our future, and if we can't advance it in a place like Asheville and Buncombe County, where can we? And so, you know, thanks to the great work of the club and so many people, we brought the issue back up for a vote, and it passed on a 4-3 vote. So we've not just been sitting around, taking a victory lap because we have a good policy. We actually have to make it happen. And so there's been a lot of great work and collaboration over the last year or two on that issue. As I mentioned earlier this evening, the commission has voted to approve over $10 million in funding. We just actually approved the bond funding tonight, and that's to install the largest solar energy project on public facilities in North Carolina's history. So we're going to put solar on more than 40 public buildings across Buncombe County. That's county buildings, the city schools, county schools, AB Tech schools, and thanks to Julie Mayfield's great work on the city council, the city's also approving additional funds to put solar on additional city facilities as well. So while the project costs a little over $10 million, it's going to save over $25 million in lower energy costs for taxpayers over the next couple of decades. So it's a financial no-brainer, and it's a great step forward to achieving our renewable energy goals. But we know it's just it's just while it's a great project, it's a modest first step. You know, I think that even within progressive communities, I think in some ways we don't fully recognize sometimes how big of a lift this is going to be to really go to very high levels of renewable energy use in our economy. We need to be installing about 10 times as much renewable energy every year than we've been installing over the last few years. We can do it. We have, great technology to make it possible. We know we can save money doing it, but it's going to require political leadership that's willing to spend a lot more of our time and attention and resources just focusing on the issue. Because right now, as government at the local level, state level, we spend only a very small percentage of our time talking about these issues and what we need to do to make this transition happen over really a very short period of time. So that's why I'm so excited that Julie's running for the state legislature, and why I'm so excited that we have Parker and Terry running for county commission. We are soon going to have the political leadership to really scale up the good work that's happening to the kind of level that we need to really match the scale of the challenges that we face. So thank you to everyone in the Sierra Club, and thank you to all these great candidates who are running to be part of this important effort.
Ronnie, thank you so much for your leadership. It's just incredible. And of course, as you mentioned before, Jasmine has been right there by your side and has been the other real champion for clean energy and for environmental protection in Buncombe County. So Jasmine Beach-Ferraro is running for re-election in District 2, and she's the founding executive director of Campaign for Southern Equality, a nonprofit that promotes full equality for LGBTQ people across the South. And we're really excited to have had her on county commission, and it's critical we have her back again. Jasmine, you're up.
Hey, everybody. It's really great to be with you tonight. And it's been really inspiring to hear people's updates from the campaign trail and to just kind of feel my energy get boosted. I just want to thank everyone for what you're doing, whether you're behind the scenes on campaigns or donating to campaigns or making phone calls or out there as a candidate. It really is inspiring to know the amount of work that's happening. I'll keep my comments brief. I know there's a few more folks to hear from, but let me just tell you a little bit about why these issues matter so much to me, and then a little bit about the race that I'm in and why we're doing everything we can to win in District 2. I'm a minister by training. I'm a minister in the United Church of Christ, and honestly, my approach to a lot of issues around the environment and climate really start from that place of faith and that sense of responsibility and stewardship around the environment, and also really an understanding of the intersections of how the environments we live in intersect with other justice issues, particularly around racial and economic justice. So that's really been my my runway into these issues, and I'm so grateful. Especially, I want to thank Brownie and Julie and Ken for all the ways you sat down to take time with me to do some education around the more technical aspects of policy issues, and also just the bold leadership and vision that is really helping us take the kind of steps we need to take locally in this political environment. As several other folks have noted, I think our local communities really have offered a place for us to be aggressive and more visionary around policies that we can get passed and policies that will touch people's lives immediately. I'm incredibly hopeful that this election season will break the dysfunction and gridlock we've experienced both in Raleigh and DC and allow us to see those things happening at the state and federal level. But I've been honored to be part of doing this work here in Buncombe County, and honored to see the way that we can quickly go from idea to implementation. Two of my favorite memories of the last couple of years working on these issues were, one, of course, was the night that Judy and an amazing team of high school and college students showed up and they had public comment strategy dialed in like it was an NBA playoff game. They took to the front of the room. They seated, the time as they needed to, and one after another, they went up to the mic and said, I'm from Asheville High School. I want to present 672 signatures. I'm from Owen. I'm presenting 732 signatures. And it just was this incredible way to bring the voices of so many passionate young people into that space, and was just a really inspiring moment. Another moment I think of was actually tromping around the roof of the North Star Academy in Montfort on a rainy winter day with Jeremiah and the folks who are helping lay the groundwork for the RFP around the solar panel project. I really, really love just kind of getting out to see what's happening, and so appreciate that side of getting to work on county commission. Is you can learn about something, you can vote on it, and then you get to go clamber up on the rooftop in the middle of a rainstorm and see where those solar panels are going to be. So I hope you can detect my passion around these issues, and how fired up I am about, as Brownie said, the work that we really can do if we can keep building this majority on the commission. As Ken mentioned, I'm running in District 2. I was elected and have been serving in District 1. I've been redistricted into District 2. It's got all the bittersweetness other people have alluded to, but I'm excited to be there with John and really enjoying getting to talk with people across the district, and which runs basically from sort of the southeastern part of the county, from the southeastern part of the city, out through Swannanoa, Black Mountain, Fairview, and certainly parts of our county where issues, some of the ag issues that have been discussed throughout the call and the climate issues are really critical and front and center for folks. We're treating this as a very competitive race, and kind of have our heads down and are executing, I think, a pretty aggressive field strategy and voter contact strategy under the constraints we're working under in this time. So really appreciate all the ways folks on this call have supported my campaign, and I appreciate opportunities to support y'all's campaigns as well. I'll just close by saying, again, this is really a time, I think, when we're pulling from our deepest reserves as human beings, as people, and doing everything we can to put our shoulder to the wheel, to help our communities heal, to help our communities see a way forward that doesn't involve the kind of deep division we're experiencing right now. And I think the work we will do around climate and climate justice issues are a really huge piece of how we shine a light on what's possible in the future. So thank you all for your support, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening.
Thank you, Jasmine. And again, thank you for all of your support for all of our issues, and what a great job you've done on County Commission. One of our victories on environmental issues at the county level have been on 4-3 votes, whether that's adopting a climate, a 100% renewable goal, whether it's a lighting ordinance, whether it's any kind of environmental protection. Almost all of those have been a 4-3 vote. We have an opportunity to change that this time around. And we can do that by really, getting some new blood, some new leadership on County Commission. And we've got a couple of really great candidates running in that arena. And one of the ones is Parker Sloan. Parker is a candidate for Buncombe County Commission District 3. He's a senior community and economic development manager for Cypress Creek Renewables, a national utility scale solar company. I previously was with Henderson County's planning department working on a variety of planning, zoning, and housing projects. Imagine that, having somebody on County Commission that is an expert on planning and land use planning. Wow, we could actually use that from that standpoint. Parker, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ken, and I'm really excited to be here. I do wish we were all together eating snacks and drinking beer downtown. That sounds really great right about now. But it's an honor to have your support from the Sierra Club. My name is Parker Sloan. I'm running for Buncombe County Commission in our 3rd district. I just saw my website popped up there. If you navigate there, I do have a GIS map of all three districts on my website that has the State House and the County Commission districts overlapping. And I need your help to flip this seat blue for the people of Buncombe County. I am trying to knock off a Republican incumbent, so I have a competitive race as well. I moved here 12 years ago after graduating from Appalachian State. I live with my wife, Maya, who's a public school teacher, our toddler, Austin, and our infant, Willa, out in Candler, North Carolina, off of Pisgah Highway. I've served you on the Buncombe County Planning Board for 5 years now. And I wanted to take a brief moment to mention where my family comes from. My mom grew up in a small coal mining town in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Was raised by my mom. Her father was a coal miner. He passed away before I was born of black lung. And his father was a coal miner. Actually, moved to Pennsylvania from Lithuania, and kept working in the mines, and actually never learned how to speak English because he spent all of his life in the coal mines. And I say that to tell you this, for the last 3 years of my career, I've been really excited to work to replace coal energy with solar energy, where I work for the country's third largest solar farm company, where I do public policy, permitting, and economic development work. I also earned my master's degree in public administration from Western North Carolina University. And my plan for Buncombe County Commission is to enact policies to clean up our French Broad, to create and implement a new county comprehensive plan, to finally plan for the growth in our already growing community, and to leverage the resources of our county to transition our economy to a clean energy economy, all to make our community more truly livable, affordable, and sustainable for everyone. And so again, with your help, I promise to fight every single day for a better government for our community, and I will fight for everyone regardless of where you live, how long you've lived here, or what you look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Parker. And certainly next is another opportunity to pick up a seat and flip a district so that we have somebody again who supports the environment, supports land use planning, and smart growth for our county. Terry Wells is a 9th generation Buncombe County farmer who currently works as Director of Community and Agricultural Programs for Western North Carolina Community. She's been a former English teacher. She worked for Asheville City Schools and just a number of great things. But we're excited to have Terry running, and I want her to be elected because she'll be my county commissioner. Terry, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Judy. It's a pleasure to be with you all. And I was so excited to hear from Ronnie and Jenna, and how exciting to have those folks representing us at the state level, as well as our local delegation. So this is a really exciting time for us, and I think there's so much potential. And Ken had asked about our districts, and I just want to say I love my District 1. It is so exciting for me because it's everything from Sandy Mush over to Barnardsville, going into North Asheville, all Weaverville, and even dipping down in the West Asheville there around Susan. And so that's really exciting. I get to represent a really big part of the ag community in this area, as well as folks that really appreciate and know how important having local food is, because when I was farming, I had an organic vegetable CSA, and most of my customers lived in the North Asheville area. So I know that area and have a lot of connections there as well. So I also serve on the Buncombe County Ag Advisory Board. I've been doing that for about 6 years. And so farmland protection, conservation of our resources is really important to me. And the farmland protection, that we preserve local food, we protect wildlife, we promote biodiversity, and promote intact forests. And all of these things are really important to us, as I know they are important to all of you. Also, with the farming, and it was so exciting to me tonight because often on some of these things, I don't hear a lot of other people talking about farming, but there was a lot of that this evening, which was really exciting to me. And John and I certainly have these conversations and are really excited to get to work together on some carbon sequestration. But when we talk about farms, farms are really important in fighting climate change. And so there's a lot of potential there. We have renewable energy, efficient irrigation management, rotational grazing, organic practices, and increasing soil health, which is one of the things I'm really excited about with the carbon farming, and figuring out some way that we can provide incentives and really start to fight climate change with that aspect as well. So I do think there's a lot of potential. I'm really excited to work with everyone that has been here talking with you this evening, and everyone deserves clean air, clean water, and I really think that we can work together and make some really good progress over the next few years. And I really want to thank the Sierra Club, Ken, Judy, and all the rest of you for your wonderful support. And I look forward to seeing you out there at the polls. I always enjoy that. I have throughout the years, and I'm especially excited to this year. And we're going to get this job done. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Terry. We're excited to have you as one of our endorsed candidates. I mentioned at the beginning that, or a little earlier, that we had the opportunity for the first time in a decade to maybe take back the North Carolina legislature with a pro-environmental majority. We've targeted a number of seats we think we can flip and do that. But in order to do that, we can't lose any of our good incumbents. And we have two more candidates to hear from tonight. And here in Western North Carolina, we've got two of the most competitive races in the state with incumbents who are at risk of losing. And so I want to give you a chance to hear from both of those candidates because they are critical that we keep them, that we get them reelected in some tough districts so that we can take back that majority and not have to pick up even more Republican-leaning seats to make that happen. The first candidate is someone that I have spent many hours on the phone with, and unfortunately, because of COVID, we've never had a chance to meet in person. But in 2018, we interviewed and endorsed a candidate out of Watauga County and Ashe County, which is home of Appalachian State, and House District 93. Ray Russell was running that year. He's a computer science professor at Appalachian State University and is founder of something called Ray's Weather, which many of you may be familiar with. If you really want accurate weather forecast in the mountains, Ray's Weather is where you go to get that. But when we first endorsed Ray, we felt like he would be good on our issues, he would vote well, but we had no idea what a great outspoken advocate he would be for environmental policies, and someone who would fight tirelessly against any odds to make sure that he got word out of what was happening in the North Carolina legislature and making sure that he not only did the right thing, but was a leader in speaking out for good environmental policy. So let me introduce Ray Russell. Ray, you're up.
Thank you so much, Ken, and thank you to the Sierra Club for the support for now 2.5 years. And not only the support financially, but just the emotional and encouragement support that so many of you have given me, and including Ken and especially Ken. And we have spent several hours on the phone. I do want to mention one other person in particular. Of course, the whole Buncombe County delegation is such a wonderful group with Susan Fisher and Brian Turner. But I do want to call out John Ager in particular. He was assigned as my mentor for the last 2 years. And I did not know John Ager. And you all know he is such a kind, wonderful man. And I have learned so much from him. And I just want to thank you, John, for your kindness and patience with me over the last 2 years. I have greatly appreciated that. So a couple of other things about myself. I will tell you, most people don't know that I actually originally went to college to be a minister, and was a minister in a little rural place in Tennessee, and then went to North Mississippi, to the second poorest county in Mississippi. What an education that was, and I don't necessarily mean that in a pleasant way. It was a tough place to be in 1979 and 80. My wife is an early childhood educator. She taught kindergarten and pre-K for 25 years, and now teaches at Appalachian State and teaches teachers. So there. I have 2 wonderful daughters and the 4 most beautiful grandchildren ever. No, I'm sorry, I don't have you all. I won't show you pictures, but there are a lot of grandchildren around the legislature. But it's a wonderful thing. There's also a lot of children, because in our freshman class we brought in a younger group of people, and it has been an exciting year to get to know all of these folks. I've run a small business, in raisedweather.com. So it's been really exciting for me to make this transition from being a college professor and small business owner to be a House legislator. I didn't know what to expect. I did not bargain for pandemic. I did not bargain for no budget to be reached and for them to hold the budget over our heads way into the fall. Didn't expect any of that, but it has been a great experience. But I'll tell you what, next year's going to be a much better experience because we want to be in the majority next time. And key to that is Joe Sam and I holding our districts. And I don't really, you know, as far as environmental issues go, I don't need to give you a lecture on what's important in environment. I could talk about a number of things, but so much of what I could have said has already been said. So let me just tell you a couple of things. Yesterday, the Speaker of the House stood in a press conference and made the most bogus claims ever, just absolutely made up stuff about how the Democrats have signed pledges to defund the police. That's not true. But I'll tell you what they did, the Republicans have done over the last 10 years. They have defunded agricultural extension just when our farmers need it to battle and figure out what needs to happen next for their climate change and the changes that they're needing to make in their practices and crops. They have defunded DEQ to the tune of 34%. They defunded the Attorney General's office. So among other things, the Attorney General doesn't have the resources to fight for environmental justice issues. We can go down the list of one thing after another that the Republicans have defunded in the last 10 years. We need to work, I mean, climate change is the defining issue of our age, even though COVID is the defining issue of at least a couple of years. But when COVID is done, the issue that will remain the greatest threat to our way of life is climate change. And you all know that. I don't need to tell you that. We've got to invest in resiliency and efficiency and conservation. We've got to rethink our transportation systems. I would love to, I've been sitting on the DOT committee for 2 years. I would love to tell you that in our committee meetings that we brought in people to really talk about what the impact of climate change is going to be on the way we move things from point A to point B and what our strategies are going to be for automobiles and trucking and all that. Not one word of any of that has happened in that committee. I'm on the Environment Committee. I'd love to tell you we had great discussions on how we can rid ourselves of single-use plastics. Has not happened. Not one word of any of that. And I could go on for a long, long time. This could be the year that makes the difference in the way we approach environmental issues and what we're going to be in the next 50 to 100 years. You know, we are in this COVID crisis, and you know, that's got our attention in incredible ways. But I want you to think 100 years from now. 100 years from now, you know, this COVID crisis is going to be a small part in a textbook someplace, something like the pandemic in 1918. I mean, now we actually kind of dug it out of the books and how horrible that event was. But in 2020, that's kind of what this pandemic is going to be like for that. You know what we're going to be remembered for? We're going to be remembered for whether we stood up to do something about climate change, because that's the issue that will affect their lives in 2120. We just have to take that issue and work so hard to make sure that we do right by our children and grandchildren and their children for generations to come. I mentioned that I was a minister and went to school to be a minister. One of my college professors every year, I don't remember if it was at the beginning of the year or whatever, but he would come to our class and read a story called The Keeper of the Springs. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the story of The Keeper of the Springs, The Keeper of the Springs is a parable. It was told by Peter Marshall, who was chaplain of the U.S. Senate, 1946 to 48. And it's a parable about this town council who put greed ahead of caring for people. And they fired this man that they had used to be the keeper of the streams. And the town, you know, had the stream that flowing down the hill, and it went into a nice, beautiful lake, and they had a wonderful tourist industry and other industry around the lake. They said, what is this guy doing anyway? We don't even know what he's here for, and they let him go. And of course, as the parable goes, eventually the streams became muddy. It polluted their pond or their lake. The tourists left. The industries were damaged. And within years, you know, they were back saying, what have we done? We've got to go find the keeper of the springs and put him back on his route and taking care of our community. Well, I will tell you that North Carolina in 2010 fired the keeper of the springs. And in 2016, the US government, federal government, fired the keeper of the springs. And this election is going to be about whether we hire that keeper of the springs again. We have got to do right by our environment, by our children, by our grandchildren. And thank you so much for helping me hold this seat so that we can go find those other 6 seats and flip the North Carolina House. Thank you for inviting me to be here, and thanks for everything.
Thanks, Frank. You guys can understand why we've got to get him reelected again. Well, he's not the only tough seat that we've got to hold this time around. The North Carolina House District 119, which is Haywood County, Jackson County, and Swain counties, is one that we've had a great environmental champion representing off and on for a number of years. Joe Sam Queen actually lost in 2016, the last time Donald Trump was on the ballot. And it's quite likely that that district will again vote for Donald Trump. But we've got to make sure Joe Sam wins this time around. And Joe Sam is a farmer, an architect, or a businessman. And of course, what he's known most for is being a square dance caller in Haywood County in that area. But Joe Sam has been a longtime champion of the environment. And again, no one's ever accused Joe Sam of being shy about speaking up for what's right for his district and what's right for North Carolina and what's right for our environment. Joe Sam, you're up. We lost Joe Sam here. Got him muted maybe?
Okay. Thank you, Ken. I'll start again.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody who's on the call. I appreciate everybody being here. I am so grateful to be associated with the great delegation that's coming out of Western North Carolina, from Ray Russell up in Watauga to everybody in Buncombe. I mean, this is a great delegation to work with. It's a great delegation at the local level. So it's really impressive. And I am very fond of them. But I do need your help. I need everybody on board. The Sierra Club volunteers are very helpful in a close race like mine. I've ran 9 times. I've won 6 and lost 3. It's not unanimous in my line of work and in my district. So I have been a very high performing Democrat in some tough races. So I appreciate folks. I want to do 2 things. I want to say, I want to invite everybody. Governor Jim Hunt is going to be my special guest and endorser and my Zoom companion on the 23rd. That's next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Check out my webpage at joesamqueen.com. Join us, support us, be part of that. I would appreciate that. And the other thing is volunteer. Go to that website and volunteer. We can use all the Sierra Club members during the election cycle. I tell folks there's really 3 elections that I want you participating in. The one right now is an absentee. You can vote now, and you can vote for the next month, really all the way up to election day, absentee. Safe at home, on your own kitchen table. Take time to get the whole ballot filled out first, and side, a second side, understand how important these down the ballot races are, like all our council of state, all our judicial candidates. We have a fabulous group of candidates running on the Democrat slate. And I would challenge you to even compare them to their counterparts. We need to make sure we can keep our courts, and you can see what a great treasurer would be like Ronnie Chatterjee. We have a terrible treasurer right now, Dale Falwell. He was head of the Unemployment Commission when they gutted North Carolina's unemployment benefits. He's been part of the problem, like Tim Moffitt and Tillis, for a decade. And it's time to get rid of those guys in North Carolina and put some folks in that are representing the people, the values, and the future of our great state. So volunteer. I'll invite you to join in and be inspired by Jim Hunt, and we'll give you a good stump speech. I won't do that right now. On Wednesday the 23rd at 5 o'clock, and you can contribute on those websites. Go to these other candidates that are in competitive seats. The Sierra Club is famous for turning out great volunteers, great phone bankers, great folks working the polls. Do that. And during this, 10% of the entire registered voters of North Carolina, over 700,000, almost 800,000 by now, have applied for absentee ballots. That is unheard of. That's 2,000% more than's ever been done. So the early voting and absentee is very important. So what I tell folks, I use my little suggestion is think of somebody every day that you can call up and get a cup of coffee with and get them to vote absentee. Get them to vote up and down the ballot for the judges, for the council of state. We really have 5 statewide groups. We have our senator, absolutely critical to take over the national Senate with Cal Cunningham. Absolutely critical to have Mo Davis represent us in the Congress in the majority, in a Democrat majority, in a Democrat Congress. I'm looking so forward to that opportunity. And then we've got to hold our governor, and he's doing a terrific job as a leader. We would be unbelievable bad shape if we had a Republican in the gubernatorial slot in North Carolina. So it really has mattered what we did last election when you got me back in. You've got to protect us, but fellows like me and Ray Russell. You've got a great delegation. They're all working hard. They're all working up and down the ballot, every one of them, because it's a team effort if we're going to turn our state around. And we've got to turn our state around if we're going to meet those existential problems that John Ager so clearly points out. We've got income inequality and the absence of leadership in a climate change. And that's what's going to define our generation and probably our century if we don't get it right. We've got to get it right, and now is the time. So I thank everybody for supporting me. Get out there and work for Josh Remillard. You do not want Tim Moffitt in the great Chuck McGrady seat. Get in there, guys. Surely to God, Henderson County can get this straight. But with the Sierra Club volunteers doubling down, I'm sure we can elect Josh, and I'm working hard to encourage that. I've got a couple that you haven't mentioned that I just that are really on the borderline. That's Sam Edney and Alan Jones, both great candidates. If you're in Transylvania or you're in Madison and Yancey, East Haywood with Alan Jones, get in there and help these guys. They will be great members, and I know them well, and they are great environmentalists and great supporters of education, great supporters of broadband for Western North Carolina. We've got to enter the 21st century here, finally. If we quit obstructing, there again, Tillis was the obstructor of all things broadband when he was in the speaker's position, and all things healthcare obstruction. I'll be so glad to get him out of public office and get somebody in there that's working for us all. So thank you. Sierra Club. Join me at Western Carolina. You got a great chapter out there. I've got to carry Western Carolina. Ray Russell's got a carry Appalachia. A lot of Sierra Club members there. Young people love their environment. They want to work for it. They know it's the future. So thank you, Sierra Club, and we're in it to win, and we're in it to win it for North Carolina and for our nation. So thank you for your support all through the years, and we're not letting up till it's over. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe Sam. We got to get you back out there. So you keep working hard. We're going to work hard to make sure you get reelected. You did a great lead in to our next person that's going to make a few comments. Judy Maddox is chair of the Western North Carolina chapter group, and I think she's got a couple of things she wants to say. Judy, you're up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Maddox. I'm chair of our Western North Carolina Sierra Club. Can you see?
We're not seeing you.
You're not seeing me. Okay. Can you see me now?
Still not seeing you, but we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
We can't hear you very well, Judy.
Okay.
Can you?
Well, I'm Judy Maddox.
It's very hard to hear you.
Okay.
Tell you what, Judy, I'll jump in.
Okay, go for it. Ken.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we've got great candidates locally. We've got great candidates in a lot of areas, but we really need, in order to get them elected, we need volunteers. We need people who would be willing to reach out and email or text or call people they know and let them know how to request an absentee ballot. Let them know who the Sierra Club endorsed candidates are. Let them know when early voting starts, what the hours are. Remind them if they still haven't voted that election day is their last chance. Letting them know things like when absentee ballots have to be turned in to make sure they've got plenty of time to be received. And so we're asking people to volunteer to do that. We're also going to be asking people to join us and in a safe way, help us hand out Sierra Club endorsement cards and make those available, wearing masks, wearing gloves. We've got some innovative things we're working on to make sure that we can keep you safe and also the voters safe and still do that. We know that in a presidential election year, 8% of voters don't fill out the bottom of the ballot. And in close races, whether it's statewide, Governor Cooper won by 10,000 votes last time around. We were able to show that we got him almost half of that total in Buncombe County by our drop-off rate when we were handing out Sierra Club endorsement cards being less than the average for the rest of the state. So we know it makes a difference. And, 3 or 4 percentage points in a close race is the difference between winning or losing. So we got to make sure people vote all the way down the ballot. And many people are registered unaffiliated. They don't trust Democrats. They don't trust Republicans. So they won't take their slate cards. But many of those people will take our slate cards. And so it makes a big difference. So we need people to volunteer and to reach out and help us recruit other volunteers. Again, to do everything in a safe manner. So we need your help. You can go to wenoca.org to see all of our endorsements. You can contact Judy or myself in order to be able to volunteer and anything else. So it's been a long evening. I appreciate all of you staying in there and listening all the way to the end. But gosh, with these great candidates, how could you not? Just really important that we get everybody elected and that we make a difference this year. Take back the legislature, win everything from president all the way down to county commission and all of our key races in North Carolina. And we need your help to do it. You've taken the first step by making a financial contribution. And I promise you, we put that money to good work. We don't waste it. Susan Fisher's wonderful, but she doesn't have one of the most competitive races, so she's not getting our money. Joe, Sam, and Ray are. And we've already made a significant contribution to their races. And so we're out to make it happen. And your support is helping us not just locally, but statewide to flip these key races. So thank you again for joining us. And Margaret, do you have a screen to put up for us here? Whoops, there we go. Again, You can still make, if you got so inspired by these folks, you want to make an additional contribution so we can help them even more, you can go back and donate. Those of you that send a check, know where to send the check, or if not, check with me and we'll do it. You can do it online through the link that's shown. But again, thank you for all of our candidates for giving us the evening of your time and all the inspiring words. And you made me really proud to know the Sierra Club has endorsed every single one of you. And I can't wait to get you all elected. And for those of you that are donors and volunteers, thank you so much for making this all possible. And we really appreciate it. So again, you can go to sierraclub.org, NC PAC, donate, give again. As my former Baptist minister used to say when I was a kid, give till it hurts and give some more. We like that philosophy, but we really appreciate all you've done and everything. So thank you and good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks, Ken.
good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.